Musical Talk, the UK's independent musical theatre podcast. Hello and welcome to another edition of Musical Talk. I'm Thos, and like last week, I've been wondering what would happen if I added the letter T to a well-known show or film. Well, what about taking Top Hat and making it Top That? Which, bearing in mind it's considered to be the best of the Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers films from RKO, does sound like Irving Berlin has rather thrown down the gauntlet. In fact, it would be difficult to argue how you could top that Top Hat. But enough of such verbal dexterity, and into the world of musical theatre, where verbal dexterity actually is a very important part of what happens along with musical dexterity and performance dexterity, and plenty of other dexterities. But I digress, really quite badly it turns out. Today, we're going to be talking about 4 shows, all of which you can see at this year's Edinburgh Festival Fringe. And what's amazing is they all come from the pen of just one person. And that person is Tom Rolfe and his theatre company Grown Up Playhouse. Now, Grown Up Playhouse was founded at the end of 2023 by Tom, and it's been bringing musicals to the Edinburgh Festival Fringe ever since then. It's got a little repertory, and those shows are The Detective's Demise, Escape Room the Musical, Millie's Musical Adventure, and Charming the Musical. Although Charming the Musical was previously known as To Be a Prince, and that's what it was called when I saw it last year. Now, Charming the Musical, or To Be a Prince, is a one-man musical, and it stars Tom Rolfe. But Tom has also had his finger in the creative pie-making, there we are, there's a sentence, of those other shows that I've mentioned, The Detective's Demise, Escape Room the Musical, and Millie's Musical Adventure. Well, when you've got 4 shows on at the same time, you are pulled in many, many directions. Yet, the results speak for themselves. Those 4 shows have been massively successful, with many stars being thrown at them. And, as their website attests, they've sold well over 5,000 tickets. Not bad for a theatrical company only set up in 2023. The website is www.grownupplayhouse.co.uk. Now, last year, in 2025, I saw 3 of the shows out of 4 that Grown Up Playhouse was producing. I saw To Be a Prince, now known as Charming the Musical, and I also saw Escape Room the Musical and The Detective's Demise. And it is The Detective's Demise, which I think I can say, which has really captured the public imagination. That I think of the 4 shows is the one I would say is the best, although I know that Millie's Musical Adventure, which is a children's show, has also been doing terribly well. Which is not to say the others haven't, but for me, The Detective's Demise is the best of the 4. And so when I sat down with Tom Rolfe to talk about his repertory of shows, we spent more time on that than the others. And bearing in mind that these shows are all back at the Edinburgh Festival Fringe this year, 2026, and that you can see them, I think now's a very good time to hear that conversation that I recorded last year with Tom about these fantastic musical offerings. Let's hear from Tom Rolfe. Musical Talk.
So I'm Tom Rolfe. I'm doing the shows The Detective's Demise, Escape Room the Musical, Millie's Musical Adventure, and To Be a Prince. For the majority of them, my roles stay the same. So I wrote all of the books, co-composed and lyrics, produced, directed, musical directed. I feel that covers most of it. I think the only thing I barely did any of was choreo. It's not for me.
You're not a movement man.
I'm not a movement man.
No. Well, this is quite extensive and quite impressive, actually. I mean, if you don't mind me saying, that seems remarkable. I can't imagine you did it all in the course of a year, I'm sure. Well, maybe let's talk about it. So, what is the chronology of your 4 pieces?
So, the first one that ever existed was The Detective's Demise, which I came up with the idea for in 2021, so about 4 years ago.
I imagine you had a bit of time on your hands in 2021.
Oh,
a lot of people did.
Yes, there was some time. But yeah, so I wrote this whole script and imagined where all the songs would go. And if I was to look at that script now, it would be horrific, I'm sure. But but I wrote that, and then I wrote part of the opening number, and then sort of left it for a few months, and sort of went, oh, I'm not a good enough composer to do this justice. So I asked my friend, who I'd known since we were at school and who now went to university with me, whether he wanted to compose it with me, Michael Rincon. And he went, sure. So we wrote...
Which is what you wanted to hear.
Which is what I wanted to hear, which was lovely. And we wrote a couple of the songs, and they did almost nothing for about 2 years. And then we get to the end of 2023, and our university group is saying that they want to take a show up to Edinburgh. And I go...
Can I just say you're Southampton, aren't you?
Southampton University,
which,
yes.
in terms of Edinburgh, is about as far away from...
It's
you have to be at Exeter to get any further farther away, I think.
But, you know, we had this sort of opportunity where we'd get a bit of funding from the university, and we'd have these people who were willing to come up for sort of a week. So we, in about 2 months, just knocked out the rest of the show so we could pitch it. And they went, yep. So then we finished off the show in that year, and whilst we were doing that, at about Christmas 2023, I was sort of going, I'm really happy to be doing this show, but I'd quite like to perform in a show. And my mum was saying the same thing.
And you hadn't really thought you might put yourself in the Detective's Demise?
No, it wasn't really... I hadn't thought about it, and it's also not really the way the society worked.
Yeah,
so
right.
you know, they have their own casting rules and stuff like
course,
that.
yeah.
So I chose not to do that. But then, so I was like, okay, well, I'll get a little venue and just put on a small show. And so that's when To Be a Prince came about.
And was this all aimed for the 2024 Edinburgh Festival?
2024, yeah.
So now you've got 2 shows, either imagined or created.
Yes. So then sort of Detectives was a complete show, but a ropey one. And To Be a Prince was slowly being built. And I brought in Michael again to help compose, as well as someone called Joe Sartin and a friend of his called Adam Smith, or Adam Marquet, depending on, I think it's his composer name.
Yes.
But they came in and helped compose and arrange and orchestrate, which means there's some really lovely music for To Be a Prince. And we sort of got all that done for the 2024 Fringe. And we did 8 days of the Detective's Demise, and we did 2 weeks of To Be a Prince.
And which venue were in for To Be a Prince? Because you were in the Pickle this year, which is a 20-seater?
Yeah, so we downscaled this year, because
right.
last year we went a bit big, and we weren't selling well enough.
No, you do have to be. You have to tailor a show to what you think is going to happen. Yeah.
So we were in Paradise in the Vaults.
Oh, I know that one. Yes.
I can't remember which one.
Off Merchant's Close.
Yes. And it was really nice, and the people who came all enjoyed it. But we weren't selling enough, so this time we sort of scaled back. But yeah, that was To Be a Prince, and Detectives did really well last year. We sort of did 8 days. I think we sold something like 650 or out of 800 tickets or something, which was great for a short run, and no one knew who we were.
Yes, the first show.
Yeah, which was it was amazing.
And where were you for that?
We were in the Space Triplex,
I know.
big,
which
was a bit. The space didn't really work for the venue itself didn't really fit our show, which is why we didn't return this year.
Auditoria come in all shapes and sizes,
yes.
and so do all shows. So it's a really important thing to try and find the jigsaw piece that fits, isn't it? They could be a beautiful venue, but it might just, you wouldn't go into the assembly rooms, for example, because, unless you're packing in 1,000, you're in the most ornate room in Edinburgh, and there's plenty to challenge for that. So
we're not packing in 1,000. But yes, so we sort of did those 2 shows.
So before we move on, why do you think The Detective's Demise is the show that was drawing? What is the draw of that, do you think? And then I'll tell you what I think.
I think...
Show you're working.
I think it's that... And I've sort of realised it especially this year, and especially at the Fringe, people, when there's 3,500 shows, like to know what they're going to an extent.
You can't be too enigmatic.
No, which we did another show last year, which was not a musical, and that was too. No one knew what it was, and no one came. But it's a murder mystery musical. You know what a murder mystery is. You know what a musical is, and that's really all you need to know. Sort of all the rest of the story and the songs and stuff you maybe have no idea going in, but that
And why should you?
matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Which I think is the reason that it specifically worked. And it's also, you often get people sort of going, what is your demographic? Because it's an important question. And I think it's really hard to
Is it
pin down.
people who have come to Edinburgh?
Yeah, because I mean, we sort of, you get a lot of slightly older people, but we also got a lot of sort of teenagers and young people who really enjoyed the show as well. And I think things like murder mysteries just are
Very in vogue.
They always work, and they're always for pretty much anyone who enjoys a murder mystery. It's hard to pin down a demographic for it.
I think I agree with you. The reason I came to see it is because, well, obviously I concentrate on musicals, and it looked interesting on the online catalogue.
Yeah.
But it's a title.
Yeah.
The Detectives Demise, or Demise, depending on how you want to say it. Both spellings are available, and followed up by a scone and a scone, depending on what you want, presumably. I have to say I tend towards Demise, so my apologies if I keep saying it.
No, it's
but,
okay.
yeah, the title just leapt out from the page at me. I thought, I know exactly as you've said. I know exactly what that is. That's clearly a detective story in musical form. I'm in. And I'm going to throw something in here, but I had the privilege of interviewing Styles and Drew some years ago, and I remember George Styles saying that shows have to sell themselves, and he always gave the example of giving people a show where they know the name even if they don't know the details, something like The Three Musketeers, where most people probably haven't read the book by Alexander Dumas, or Dumas, but everyone knows the title, and everyone will have heard of the films if they haven't seen them, and so a musical like that is likely to bring people in, where if you called it Richelieu, it might not, because that just demands that extra level of knowledge. So if you'd named it after a character,
that's...
Invisible Joe. I mean, it's a great title, but whether it had...
I don't think it would sell as well.
So the show. So we've in the chronology, we've got to the point where 2 shows have been to Edinburgh in 2024.
Yes.
But the story does not finish there.
No, we carry on. So we finish the Fringe after doing those sort of short runs with varying levels of success for each show, but the general consensus being that people enjoyed them, which was very lovely. So at that point, I'm not 100% sure about bringing back To Be a Prince, because it didn't sell that well, although it was a very good show. But The Detectives Demise, I wanted to keep working on, because it is
clearly had life in it, didn't it?
It did, and it was quite a different show last year. The structure was the same, a lot of the songs were the same, although we have a couple of new ones this year. But I wanted to improve the show. Yeah. So that I was pretty sure I was bringing back, and I sort of got to the end of the Fringe and was sort of hyped up by the excitement of it all, that I was going, we should bring 6 shows next year.
Goodness.
Which we got close to. And then, sort of a couple of the shows dropped out, and we were sort of like, okay, calm down a bit. But whilst I was at the Fringe last year, I had the idea for the 2 other ones. Escape from the Musical, which I'm doing again this year. The only non-musical project is I do a self-guided murder mystery tour of the Fringe called Murder on the Mile.
Do you?
Where I hand out a booklet to people, and they go on their way and solve puzzles going to Fringe venues. And last year I scheduled it very badly and had to stand in Macca's Court for an hour every day. So I would be stood there with no one coming to collect these booklets, just with my thoughts. And I was sort of like, what other musicals can I think of? And I thought of Escape from the Musical. I wasn't really sure what it would be, but I was like, it's a concept that at the Fringe will work.
Also, escape rooms are becoming more and more popular, and there are plenty at the Fringe this year.
Yes.
They are part of the Fringe fabric.
Yes, they're very popular. And again, it's a similar thing to a murder mystery musical, where you know what an escape room is, you know what a musical is. You might not know what you're getting, but you know what you're being sold to an extent.
Yeah.
So, I started thinking about that and what that would be. Came up with an idea. And my brother was like, that's an awful idea, come up with a different idea. So I came up with a different idea.
That is what brothers are for.
Yeah. And so I was sort of like, okay, let's start working on this. And started writing a script. And again, I got Michael back to compose with me. We started working on the songs and the book. And then we cast it in about November, December, very early, before we'd really finished anything. because the Fringe is expensive, and I was wanted to give people as much opportunity to prepare for that as possible.
Yes, you do need commitment as well, because
Yeah.
also you can't. It's a big operation to get anything anywhere, and coming to the Fringe is not easy.
No.
It is expensive. You do need the people to stay for the whole time, and you don't want anyone dropping out a month beforehand and giving
Yes.
you those kind of headaches.
Yeah, so we gave them as much time as possible to sort of prepare for it. But the show kept being worked on and improved until probably about a couple of weeks ago when we had to
When you had
finally
to
put it on.
put an end to it and make it work.
Yes, yeah. But yeah, so we sort of built Escape Room the musical, and
It's interesting you use the word built, by the way.
yeah, I think
Is that how you
it's-
see it?
I think.
Because if you don't mind me saying, because obviously you've mentioned this sort of mystery tour with puzzles.
Yes.
So you're obviously a puzzler, riddler. Well, something makes you sound like a Batman villain, but you've obviously got that kind of mind. I imagine your ultimate ambition must be to set crosswords for the Times, isn't it, or something of that
Well,
nature?
I feel like I like the puzzles for the people.
Yes.
But no, I think it sort of is. It is sort of building it, because I think you write the book and you write the songs, and then you get into the process of making the show, and because it's original and because you have this cast of people that especially in this situation were cast slightly before the characters were even fully formed. It means that they
Help
also
develop
help
them?
develop them, and they.
So you're workshop developing it almost with the people.
We do. I mean, the lines generally stay the same. Although
Yeah.
sometimes people make something up and you go, oh, that's quite
Yeah,
good,
yeah.
and sometimes they do and you go, oh, that's quite bad, and then you've got to find the happy medium. But I would say that especially that process of working on it and practicing it and all of that means that you do sort of you build a show. And I think it's
A
also
collaboration theatre, in fact, isn't it?
And I think it's also because I sort out all of the props and the set. I am literally building the show. So
You're the producer in that sense, aren't you?
yes, yeah. Some people helped, but
Oh yes, I'm sure.
but you've got to take the lead.
Someone's got to take responsibility. Otherwise,
Yeah.
it doesn't always get done.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't get done, it doesn't happen. So
So the whole show sort of formed, and we got through some ebbs and flows. We got to the show that we're at now, which has ended up being really fun. And again, it's sort of what I say we aim for with our shows, is that we're not, at least the shows that we've done so far, we're not there to make you cry or make you leave going, am I living my life right? We're just
They're not
we want
existential
a fun,
questioning.
No, we want a fun hour
Yes.
where you go in and you have a good time and you leave going with a song stuck in your head and having enjoyed yourself is sort of.
Well, the Detectives Demise particularly, I think, delivers on that. But it's interesting that's in its second iteration, which, of course, also
Yes.
I would like to talk about the development of that in just a minute. But there is one further show.
So our final show is Millie's Musical Adventure, which is the other show that I came up with last year. And again, that's where I was sort of sitting around going, what shows would be good to do? And my dad went, you could do a kids show. And he sort of went, the IP shows always do very well.
This is IP.
It's not, but
Sorry, what is IP? Just
sort
people who are
of.
listening.
Oh, I see. Sort of like based on some sort of commercial thing that already exists, like the Jaffa Cake musical or stuff like
fine,
that.
yes. Oh, I see.
So sort of
Fine.
things where you take a known property and you use it, or like, I could be wrong about Jaffa Cake musical, but it's like if you were to do
It is officially
Twilight
sanctioned,
the
by the way.
musical. Yes, yeah. It's something like if you were to do Twilight the musical,
Yeah.
that would be sort of an IP musical.
Oh right, so parodies all fall into that category.
Parodies, I think,
like
do as
Stranger
well. It's
Things,
where
which
you-
was a Stranger Things musical.
Yeah, it's where you use the name of something else
Yeah.
to sell your musical, which is a great idea and it works really well. So my dad was like, pick a kid's book and try and get the rights to it. And I was like, well, I don't think I'd get the rights to it, and also that doesn't. I wouldn't find that fun.
You're not that keen on adaptation, per se,
No,
for you.
I think there's a lot of adaptation and a lot of them are great, but
You wanted to come up with something.
I wanted to come up
original,
with a show.
fine. Which is sort of the way you operate, isn't it? So,
Yes, yeah. So I sort of went, okay, I like the idea of a kids book. I'll write a kids book. So we wrote a kids book this year called Millie's Musical Adventure. It's a full picture book. It's got illustrations, whole thing, and then I made a musical around that book. and the songs are in the book. So you scan QR codes, you can listen to the songs that we do in the show
sounds clever.
whilst you're reading the book.
I should just say, I know there's a pretty good cast recording.
There is.
Because you play some of the extracts or songs from it before and after most of your shows.
Yes, we do.
And why not?
Yeah, well, it's, we have these nice recordings, and generally, as long as people aren't going to the shows 100 times, hopefully they won't get tired of the songs. But yeah, that we have really nice recordings of them with our cast, and they're on YouTube at the moment, but hopefully going to other places. But yeah, so that's our final show, and it's just this kids show, which is about a girl who is going on an adventure. She comes from a world without music, and she goes to this other land where animals give her songs, and she collects these songs, and then is chased home by a snake. So the classic sort of kids book on a journey, back the way you came.
An improved status quo as a result.
Yes, and everyone's happy and friendly, and you bring music back to the world without it. And it's very lovely, and it's everyone who has come along seems to really enjoy it, and a lot of them buy the book, so that's lovely, and shows that they enjoy it. But yeah, that's our last one.
It's quite a range, isn't it? I mean, I've got to ask you, do you find writing works for the family, but specifically children, easier or harder than writing a standard musical?
I think maybe easier.
Oh, right, that's interesting.
I think especially Millie's is... I think what's easier is that Escape Room and Detectives both have 7 cast members, and they...
Yes, they're ensemble pieces, aren't they? Which is also another joyful thing.
Because everyone who does these shows is volunteering their time. You know, it's the Fringe. We're not a big company. You know, everyone's coming up because they want to have a good time. I don't want to bring someone up and they have 2 lines.
Your spear carrier.
And so I wrote the shows going, okay, everyone gets a good part.
But actually, a gang show is always quite enjoyable to watch as
It
well.
is. It's a lot of fun, but it is... It's hard to write because you have an hour to cram 7 people's stories and lives in there. And, you know, I think I'm still working on that and finding the balance for that. But Millie's was very nice because it's a simple story. There's one character who is the main character. You follow her on her journey, you follow her back, and although there's some multi-rolling from the animals, they all have their own song, and that's sort of what they're doing. And I think it was just quite a lot simpler because also because it was a children's book, I had to make it simple enough to work as a children's book.
Actually, a book we're talking about.
Yeah, like an actual book. So it forced me to plan to a level that I should do more often, I think.
That's interesting. So the simplicity of it requires more planning. Is that what we're saying?
I think the simplicity
or is
of
it the format
meant it demanded more pre-planning. So in a show like Escape Room or Detectives, I know the concept, I know the characters, I just go, I'm going to start writing. Yeah. And that inevitably means that I will rewrite the show 100 times because, you know,
So you haven't intricately plotted out your actual... Now, what people don't know is you just pulled a little face there. So.
Oh yeah, sorry, a little... It depends. So, for instance, Detectives, I think I planned it a little bit, and then wrote the whole show back in 2021.
Can I ask, did you know how, I'm not going to spoiler it, but did you know how the denouement would happen? Did you start at the end and then work your way to it? Or did you have to sort of work your way through to the end?
No.
Because that's how, you know, I'm always interested, because I'm a great fan of detective novels as well, particularly classic and historic ones. I'm always interested to know how people do that. And Cole Porter was a great one also as a songwriter of finishing with a flourish and then working towards it.
Yes, I think that would be a smart way to do it because it's always the ending that troubles me. But no, I sort of started. I knew what I wanted it to be. It's sort of, and it was. I can say this now because Detectives has been through many rewrites and it's where it is now, and I think it's great.
It is.
But thank you very much. But when I first wrote it, I would get to the big reveal, and it would say "big reveal song," and then I would finish the show. So I spent ages not working out how it would really all come together, and then I sort of got to the point where we were 6 months off doing the show last year, and I was like, oh, I actually need to now work out how to make this show work. But no, when I first wrote it, I think the murder happened with a fire poker which was hidden in a grandfather clock. It's completely different. So no, like those shows, I have an idea of usually the characters, like what the main character trait is of that character, and how the show works. So a murder mystery is very simple. It's a murder mystery. I wanted each character to maybe sing about their motive.
Yes.
And then sort of a few extra songs. Escape Room, I wanted the show to be sort of about the escape room, whilst the songs are slightly less so. And they would sing about maybe what more drives them as people, which isn't escape rooming for most of them.
Yeah.
So that's what I knew. But
I mean, with the greatest respect, Escape Room is actually oddly a bit like a detective mystery.
It is, yeah.
Essentially.
It follows a very similar...
Yeah. And whilst it's not at all the same thing at all, it reminds me rather of Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None, which is where a number of people are brought into an environment, and then in that case they're all bumped off, which is not...
Yes,
it's not actually a murder thing, but each of the characters in Escape Room then have to realise what's going on, who is controlling them, whether their personal lives are in fact part of that. And that is oddly Christie-esque.
Yes, I think you can tell that I wrote a murder mystery first and then went do another one. I like a twist.
Yeah,
but
like you did last summer.
Yeah. But the general... Oh yeah, what I was saying was that the general planning I do for those two shows is a lot more basic, whilst when you're writing a kid's book, when you're writing a book, I imagine, you have nothing to carry it forward except your plot and your words.
Yes.
So in a musical, you can get to a song and you can go, well, this is the song that will do this, and then just carry on with your show.
It's a mechanism, isn't it?
Yeah, and it makes, I think, and I've learned not to do it for next time, but I think it would sometimes make my planning lazy, because I would go, okay, I'll do this, song will fix that, I'll do this, song will fix that. And I don't think that's the best way to go around it. But I didn't do that for Millie's, and so it took more planning to make sure that I wasn't doing it wrong.
It's also more linear, I imagine, because exactly as you say, a book progresses in that way, at the speed of the reader, actually, more than anything else.
Yeah.
And the nature of it being a children's story, it sounds like it's a bit more episodic.
Yeah.
So it is a very different thing to write, isn't it? So,
yeah, it is very different.
Yeah. And you can't use too much complexity. I know this is also obvious, it's barely worth saying, but you can't use complexity like flashbacks or other format hooks which might get in the way of it, depending on the age group you're writing for, of course. Yes, it's really interesting, but let's get on into the story of the detective's Demise, which is, it got to 24, it did terribly well, but you wanted to revise and polish and finesse for 25.
Yes.
So is it rude to ask, particularly as that's your oldest story, you know, that's the one that's got the longest backwards legacy? That's not a thing. But you know what I'm saying, it's got the biggest history. Yeah. So what did you learn from the 24 Fringe experience in relation to that story, or that production? It doesn't need to be the narrative even.
So it was the first thing I'd ever written, really. You know, I'm sure I'd written some stories at school for my GCSE or whatever, but it was the first thing that I'd sort of sat down and written, and I'd never looked at how to do it. I've never taken any lessons or classes, which I'm sure lots of people don't.
No.
So I was sort of going in blind, and so I did the show, and
it's almost instinctively rather than academically.
Yeah, there was nothing to guide me on what the best idea was, or the best way to write dialogue, I would say, is probably the big thing. And so I wrote the show, and I was really proud of the show, and we took it up, and generally reviews were good, and we got a couple of reviews that went, enjoyed the show, the songs were good, but the characters seemed a bit one-dimensional. They all seemed to sort of be the same person. I went, at the time I was probably like, oh, okay. But then I sort of, after a bit, went, okay, fair enough, fine.
If it's meant constructively, that can be helpful.
Yeah, no, I never mind a constructive review. Yeah, so they had said that, and so I went, let's look at the characters a bit more and try and make them more their own people and more more solid. So that was the big thing this year, was trying to make those characters their own sort of strong personalities. And you can, I think at the time I wouldn't have been able to tell, but if you watch the show now and watch the show from a year ago, it would be a stark difference between sort of going, oh, this is a fun show, to sort of going, oh, this is a polished show.
A thought through.
A thought through show, or at least I hope. But but yeah, so that was the main thing. And then we also had 50 minutes last year and an hour this year.
And that's breathing space, isn't it?
Yeah.
Even with the strike in and the strike out.
Yes,
we double quick out the door, please.
We had time to extend it a bit, so we added an extra song, and we improved one of our other songs, and then we just added some room to allow the characters to be a bit more characterful. Oh, and we added an extra twist that didn't used to be in the show. So we added those things, and I think it just made it a sort of more complete show and slightly better paced show. But also, the Detectives was interesting because I left last year sort of going, okay, this show works. I'd like to make it a show that could feasibly go somewhere other than the Fringe.
Yes.
Which an hour show can't really. So I was going...
Unless you're doing a double bill.
Unless you're doing a double bill, yes. So I sort of went, okay, I'll do an hour and a half. So I wrote a version of the show that was about an hour and 20 minutes, an hour and a half.
Okay.
And then went to all the venues, sort of shut us down. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to get an hour and a half slot this year. So I'll cut it back down to an hour.
That can sometimes be a very useful exercise.
Yeah, it was actually really nice because I'd sort of added all this stuff and now I had to take everything out that wasn't necessary. And I realised quite how much, especially again from last year, how much fluff there was. And a lot of the time fluff is a sort of funny joke that does nothing.
A sort of funny joke?
That's
quite a description.
A joke that got some chuckles from the audience, but you realise it slows down the show.
Fluff is the word you use, isn't it? And that's actually quite nice. I like that. Yeah, it's quite. Doesn't do any harm, but you can make things. Yeah, the suit isn't problematic if it's covered in suit, but if you get rid of the fluff, the suit is better.
Yeah. So.
It's a very different kettle of fish from a suit covered in tomato soup.
Yeah, so much worse. So we sort of cut all of that down, and I think it helped polish the show. I'd still like to extend it.
Oh yes.
Maybe for next year, but I'm sure I'll say that every year. So.
Did you direct it?
Yes.
So did you direct it differently in the 2 years? Different cast, I guess.
No.
Exactly the same
cast. Well, we've got the cast you saw is exactly the same cast. The person who plays Molly swaps on the 12th because people have so much time. But other than that, completely the same cast, which is really nice because they've got to get into the characters more. They've got to sort of become those characters more. So yes, I directed them ever so slightly differently. A lot of it was the same in terms of actual blocking. A lot of where everything sort of sat and stood has stayed the same because it all worked. I think one thing which sort of comes with direction, with being the writer and the director, is this year I was a lot stricter in terms of what I wanted, which I think is a reflection of how I believe the show is better. And I think last year they would sort of change lines or they'd change movement and stuff, and I'd go, oh, that's fine. But now I'm sort of proud of the lines that are there and stuff like that. So I'm a bit stricter about it. But they still make things up, which is funny and good. But that's the main thing I think is trying to make those characters. Again, it goes back to character. Trying to make those characters as unique and their own people, as distinct, as possible.
But having established actors for the most part in the same roles must also help, because presumably by now they're very on top of who those characters are, which does allow them to explore who they are and how responses might. I'm always interested in this, how performances differ day by day. I forgive me. Oddly, the character Joe, who's the boyfriend of one of the other characters.
Yes.
So he's just a touch further away from the core of the story.
Yeah.
And is treated as such. He's an invisible character for many of them, and he becomes increasingly infuriated about that as the thing goes on. And you get a very nice line in Acerbic, "Oh my God," or "Really," or we're doing that, or "No, I'm here, I can hear you." And that builds up. There's a nice sort of what I call a pressure cooker thing going on there. And the actor who plays that is terribly good at that kind of thing.
Cam does very well.
What's his name?
Cameron Slade. He does very well.
Well, he slayed it. But he was terrific. I mean, they're all terrific, but they were particularly taken by Joe because that's a really difficult role in some senses, to be the most comic of the characters, but through character, not through gagging. Also, there is a great deal of comedy to be mined from exasperation. But you do need to keep a lid on it. It's a simmering kettle. But I'd love to know whether that's changed for him as in performance as well as for you as a director over the year, over this month. And also there's the playfulness that some nights you will do it differently to see if you can get a different response from an audience or a better response. So I just picked Joe as an example, the character Joe.
They definitely, for especially, and I do it to be a Prince as well, where depending on the audience you've got and depending on what you're sort of getting, there is still that room for people to sort of change up slightly how they do things.
As long as it's organically within the character's remit, as it were, or wheelhouse.
yes. And Cam does, I think, has really come into the character this year. And part of that is that he's got better writing to work with. Because like last year, Joe was not quite so... the character Joe was not quite so... He didn't have all of these sort of the forgotten, downtrodden, ignored lines, which is like one of his big sort of jokes in the show. He didn't get to do stuff like that. Or I don't remember if you know the line, which I think is the best thing that Cam does in the show, which is his "Finally, I feel seen."
Yes, he does.
Which is very good, and he, like stuff like that, he didn't really have to work with last year. And Joe was a bit more of a background character, but not in the good way that he sort of is this year.
He's a foreground, background character now. Yes,
so I think Cam's really had the room, and he's taken the opportunity to really make Joe one of the really funny characters in the story, without ever telling a joke. Because you sort of get...
It's a character thing.
Yeah,
it
like
really
you have a couple of the characters like Alex and Molly, who, although Alex isn't normally telling jokes, they're telling punchlines to an extent.
They're acerbic.
Whilst people like Sam, Kate, to an extent Lucy and Joe are all a bit more, their laughs come from the fact that they're just bizarre people. And I think all of them have really taken that this year, and just we've upped the campness, and I think people have a lot of fun in the flashback scenes, which for people who haven't seen the show, which I'm sure is most people.
Well, on Earth, yes.
Yes, on Earth. It is sort of where we sort of have flashbacks where all the characters' characteristics are hugely amplified, and I think all the cast have a lot of fun being their hugely amplified selves for those
which
flashbacks.
Then funnels back into the actual room in which the situation is taking place.
Yes,
no, exactly. It gives you the freedom as well to spread your wings as a performer and as a storyteller. That's
the flashback. I love the flashbacks. They work really well to help tell the story.
And it helps your actor playing the detective actually to come on stage again.
Yes, it does. Well, that is one thing. That is one thing that's always changed. Is from the first iteration to now, the character of the deceased, the demised, which is it's Ben. He dies at the beginning. It's fine.
It's in the title.
It's in the title. Yes, it's very clear he's going to die. It's not a spoiler.
Well, or it's the biggest spoiler you could possibly do. Everything else is fine.
But he comes back loads, and again, it's part of that. A big reason that it was the case is because I didn't want someone to come up and do 10 minutes on stage, but I think it works for the show, and it's not become this thing just for the sake of it.
You don't even have comfortable green rooms in the caves, do you? No, I mean, you're behind a curtain sitting there doing nothing, I imagine.
Sometimes a bit bored, but he comes on a lot. And his song this year, which is a lovely song, is new. So last year...
Or is that your newly written song?
That's our new one, which I think has really helped the show, sort of. I think it is a really nice point in the show. But before he didn't have one. So his character is the one that constantly sort of grows and becomes more and more continuous in the show, which is nice.
Now, within the context of the piece, I'm describing this character. The person who arrives, who is the detective's successor,
Yes.
is a very different character to the cast of suspects, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So you've got a lovely set of grotesques, and then there's a very different energy from our new detective, or the actual active, non-dead detective.
Yeah.
Now, I suppose the question I've got for you is, how far did you want that to be a distinct difference? Because she's almost a clown in a room full of grotesques. Because she's curiously not madly competent, and has to be supported quite a lot by an actual detective's assistant and detective in his own right, who's also in there. But she just has a very different energy to the rest of the room. You know, this is not a good thing or a bad thing. I'm just making the observation,
Yes.
so without judgment. Was that always the intention, or is that an actor's choice? Because I tell you what I got from her. Funny enough, the actor playing it, very engaging. But it was, to me, it was strange. It was a mixture of Jodie Whittaker's Doctor Who and Victoria Wood.
I think...
To me.
I think it is...
All dressed as the second Doctor, if you want to play that game.
That's true. I think it's... Again, because the characters were sort of formed somewhat around these people, that they do definitely have an impact on... Because our second person, Molly, that character's the one being replaced for the second couple of weeks. And the two people doing that, they do it very differently.
Oh, that's really interesting, yeah.
So they're very different. The lines are the same, the jokes are the same, all of that, but the characters do have slightly different vibes. But I think there is definitely a part to it, which is that this person who comes in, Molly, or in our second week, it's Arthur, that changes to a guy playing it. They are an outsider, and they are different, and you do want them to stand out a bit from the rest of these people.
And there's a tradition. I mean, forgive me, Columbo is the obvious television equivalent, because Columbo is such a strange character in his own right, and dirty, and obviously intelligent, but he comes into these swish lives, and he ain't swish. Yes,
and I think also, so last year, I won't spoil this, but the twist with sort of the thing that happens with that character wasn't in the show last year, and so it meant it meant that their larger than life sort of the way that they acted was a bit more. They're just a bit.
Much.
A bit much. Whilst now it sort of works within the show of going...
There's a motivation for it.
Yeah, there's a motivation for why they sort of behave in the way that they do. And I think that's what... Obviously you have to wait a fair amount of the shows for that to pay off. But maybe you have spent that sort of part of the show going, this detective's a bit weird. And
yes,
then
I think you do that.
Yeah, you do. But, and the character is, and it's sort of written to be, for a detective, quite incompetent, I suppose, and quite not behaving in the way you expect them to behave. And then you sort of go, oh, that's why. So I think it's stuff like that we've changed from last year that really improves and gives the characters more what they should be thinking of, and more what they could be.
So you added a song, which is for the titular detective.
Yes.
And did you remove any? You made an interesting comment about improving a song. Now, how far does this is Trigger's Broom, isn't it? Which is how far do you have to improve a song before it's a new song?
Oh, it is a new song, yeah. So it sits in the same place in the story. It does the same job, but because our story changed ever so slightly, and because last year we rushed a bit.
Yes.
There were a couple of things where we were like, ugh.
Just a bit jolty.
Yeah, so it was we basically at the end have this reveal rap, which is that point where...
What a sentence I wasn't expecting to hear today.
It's a reveal rap. So when you...
Which wraps it up, ironically.
Which wraps it up, yeah. So you have this...
Like working with you there, thank you.
Which is sort of this point in the story where suddenly everything becomes clear. As it happens, and you get it in... I did like the sort of BBC Sherlock or Death in Paradise, where you have those flashbacks and you have quick speaking detectives sort of doing this. So it was playing on that. But last year we had this rap, which was we'd knocked out really quickly because we were like, we need to get this done, we need to get it rehearsing. And then this year I was sort of like, I don't really like that rap that much. So we made it, I think, much better, and it's this sort of very fun jazzy rap that reveals all. And it's blocked a lot nicer, and we have dancing, and it's quite cool. If I just say to myself, I mean, I didn't choreograph it, so...
Oh, no, and that's a legitimate thing, but, funny enough, rap is not what one thinks about as being a generally choreographed, probably quite wrongly, but one doesn't think of it in those senses.
No, it is, we have sort of quite fun blocking choreo with it. But that is the song that we did a massive overhaul on, to sort of become more in line with the show, I suppose. Last year it was quite sort of just plodding, whilst a lot of our music in this show moves a lot and it's quite fun and you're sort of all over the place. So we moved it into more that. So that's the other song that went over a big overhaul, and then a couple of others had some small edits and additions and stuff like that.
But one was overhauled, I think that's the word, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's a really good term for it. Now, it's obviously been quite a success here in Edinburgh in 2025.
Yeah, it's going pretty well.
What is the future for, all four of the shows, and maybe any other... What else have you got cooking up in your puzzling mind?
So,
and I use that in both senses.
Thank you. 2025's going pretty well. Escape Room and Detectives are both doing really well.
They've got good titles.
They've got good titles. They've got... we're getting good audiences most nights. To Be a Prince and Millie's, everyone who comes along seems to really enjoy them.
Well, you told out To Be a Prince when I was there.
Yeah, you came on a good night. Good day. But everyone who comes enjoys. It's not... I think To Be a Prince maybe is looking at slowing down unless I can find a new way to advertise it. Because admittedly, To Be a Prince, I think, which has nothing to do with the show, is somewhat misadvertised. We have sort of this lovely poster. Which
the poster's gorgeous, yes.
All of our posters are wonderful.
But it's a fairy tale-ish poster, isn't it?
It
stunning,
is.
Yeah. I don't know who did it. Is it
Charlotte Connolly does all of our art.
Thumbs up to her then, because that's
amazing,
a great image. Yeah, I walk past that every time and think I could frame that. That's not really.
Yeah, it's beautiful. But what it does is sells the show as a children's show, and it's what I asked her to do, and it's what it says. And then, which originally it was. And then kids came to the show, and I was like, it's not really a kids' show, because I'm not active, I'm not jumping around.
It's not
stage.
daring do, is it? No,
it's
actually existential angst.
Yeah, it's family friendly, but it's But it's for...
It's aimed at a slightly higher audience. Yeah. You need to have a certain amount of nous to get it.
Yeah, which I think is why we struggle to get people in, because the people who would come and see a one-man musical go, oh, it looks like a kids' show. The people who would go to a kids' show go, oh, it's a one-man musical. Yeah. And you sort of lose a lot of audience. So if we were to take it up, I'd sort of change the advertising. But
can I just say briefly, there's an absolutely copper-bottomed hit up here called Potty the Plant, which I've had the privilege of seeing and interviewing the people behind. But the Potty the Plant puppet character is cute and adorable.
It is.
And they said they had the same trouble in their first year. They put him on the poster, as you would. It's his show, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
And a lot of people mistook it for a children's show, and it is not that.
No.
Have you seen it?
I haven't had a chance
It's
to see
terrific.
it, but I do know that they now plaster dark comedy musical everywhere.
They do, and because they were wrestling with how to do that, because how do you alert people to the fact that this is in fact a subversive thing and not as you see it? Yeah. Exactly. It's not quite the same thing, but it's a similar kind of problem you've got there. So, you don't want to give your Prince a flick knife, but I mean, that gives the quite wrong vibe. But yes, I agree.
It's finding that right balance. But yeah, so that one, I love the show, and I'd love to get full. We always want to do full cast recordings, which we got to do for Millie's because of the book. and would love to do more of them.
Do you have any songs from the others, by the way? At all?
We
Even dummy recordings?
I've recorded one for To Be a Prince, which we still need to get sort of mixed and mastered, so we might put that out. Escape Room we want to do after the Fringe, because
it's bedding in still.
Yeah, so we sort of want to... I think a lot of the songs are complete. It's sort of the story that we still needs a little bit of tinkering, but the songs we'd love to record. Detectives is tricky because it's the one that we'd really love to record.
Yes, and it's the one I'd really like to hear.
Yeah.
Again.
We'd love to record that, but we also know that we're not done with the show. So it's tricky going, do we record it and then we have this early recording and then we also do a new version of the show, or do we wait until we've got this full, what we're happy with last? But then, that could take years, you don't know.
Yeah, that is a conundrum, because obviously the great thing about the score is it actually gets people familiar, and oddly that brings people in.
Yes.
So yeah, sometimes you do have to make a judgment as to when you're going to do that.
I think we'll definitely at least get some sort of single songs recorded.
Yeah,
and
that's good. Yeah.
I think is a good choice.
I mean, the Phantom of the Opera, it worked for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll take tips from them. They don't know all right themselves. But yeah, so To Be a Prince, I've always wanted to make it into an audiobook. I think it could really work. Sort of a 40-minute, hour-long audiobook. Millie is tricky. We're not selling very well for Millies, which I don't really know why. Maybe it's that it's not selling itself as sort of big and active as other kids' stuff. I don't know. So that one.
You're also aware of the trap in Edinburgh that the schools don't go back earlier.
Yes.
In Scotland than they do in England.
Yeah. So there's. I'd love to do more with Millie's because I think it's a really nice show. But at the very least,
yeah. But you've got to record. So.
We've got the recording. We have the book.
So it can have a life outside of the stage anyway.
Yes. Yeah. Like we'll keep hopefully trying to sell the book, and also it's the sort of show that maybe is worth transferring to into a sort of school-based thing where you sort of take it to schools. Is a thought that we've had.
Oh, that's a very nice idea. I like that.
Because I think it could be changed just slightly, and then you could tour schools and they'd love it. I think. Escape Room is tricky because I don't think it's necessarily got a place outside Fringes. Not necessarily just Edinburgh Fringe, but it's such a Fringe show.
It is a Fringe show. Yes, absolutely.
Like the whole premise that you're sort of in this room and the audience is there with you, and these people have all come together. I think it's a very fringy concept. So we might bring it back, sort of work on it a bit, bring it back, because there is everyone who comes to the show seems to have a great time, but I think there are bits and pieces to which of course it's the first time the show's going on. Bits and pieces.
You've been very honest about the fact that you dramaturg it a little bit.
Yeah. And I also think it's sort of, we're not on the West End. We're not charging 40 quid a ticket. I think part of the great...
With the great respect, if you were at the West End, you'd be charging a damn sight more than
that's
that.
far more, yeah. But I think the great thing about the Fringe is that if you can get up here and you can put on a show, it's the perfect place to see what an audience likes and what it doesn't like, or even see what critics like and what they don't like. And you get to improve your show on that. So as it's the first time it's gone up, I'm sure we'll leave going, we could change this, we could change this. But it would inevitably be heading back, possibly to the Fringe again. And then Detectives is the one that we want to try and find a place outside of the Fringe, which is
see if it can escape
optimistic. But
it is, but unless you have the ambition, it won't happen. So,
yes, yeah. But also, I'd also love to next year be able to put Detectives on somewhere where we can get like a small band, have a bit of a longer show, and just give it its best chance for like a final year or something like that.
Give it a lovely polish, in fact.
Just give it, put it on with a great set, because that's the thing of the Fringe as well. We're in just the Tonic, which has been lovely, but they're a stand-up venue. Yeah. So they don't have room for us to bring a sofa onto the stage. We've got to work with what you've got. So I'd love to find a venue where we can just put on a really well-staged, It is well staged, but a more attractive sort of set.
I've got to tell you this. I was very taken by the folding dining chairs that you're using. I actually thought they looked lovely in my own dining room. I said, that can't be why I went into the show, but I did think, I wonder where he bought those.
They did. They
very stylish.
I think we've done a very good job at making what we can fit into the area work. But yes, Detectives is the one that we're looking to extend, really polish, and then just try and take to some other places and see what we can do. But it's true because you sort of obviously you think 7 people, or at least you might not, but I thought 7 people. It's a pretty small show.
Yeah.
But in fact, sort of when you look at what small shows are, 7 people is sort of pushing. You're going.
It doesn't feel like a small show.
No, not
in Edinburgh.
You get the shows the Fringe shows that, not necessarily Edinburgh Fringe, but like Operation Mincemeat, which was a Fringe show of like Fringe theatres, or 6, or anything like that, where their casts are 6 or 5 or whatever. It is even smaller. Or you get shows with 2 people or 1 person or whatever it is. So 7 is getting up there on. Once we start being people trying to go to other places and be a company that is taking 7 people around and doing that, it's getting a little bit big. So we've got to find a way to make it work and find a way to get 7 people doing the show and try and get it into some professional places.
Now, I think we're moving towards the end of the conversation, if that's okay. But I do have a question. It's something you just said about Escape Room, funnily enough, and it's something I'd temporarily forgotten, but I had enjoyed but was intrigued by.
Yes.
Which is, you say that it's an escape room. The concept is the main characters, of which there are 6. It's a reunion, essentially.
Yes.
Of university friends in an escape room.
Yes.
With brought there by forces unknown.
Yes.
And as you say, the audience is sort of acknowledged as being in the room somehow. They're playing. It's meta playing.
Yes.
But it takes it one step further because there is a representative of the audience, clearly an actor, but there is one of the actors plays someone from the audience who sort of crept up on stage and is interacting with the 6 principal characters.
Yes.
And commenting on them. It's one, in this case, one man Greek chorus almost. Or, probably more appropriately, one man French. Is the actor actually French?
He is. Yes, he is. A very good French accent.
Yes, it was terrific, and he also has a certain amount of Gallic charm, if I may trade in stereotypes. Yes, I warm to him and his character, but it's a very unusual thing to do.
Yes.
Also, you give him a song in French.
Yes.
Which is striking because I suspect many of us in the audience, including me, I have to say this, don't have French. So it was a lovely song. But it's like all those lovely recordings from the 1930s of Charles Trenet. I really enjoyed them, and the melodies are great. I don't know what he's saying, but it was a kind of sort of lyrical number, if I remember rightly. It was the way I.
Yes, well, when originally we wrote the show and it had to be cut for time, he would sing this whole French song at the beginning of the show. It would all be in French, and you'd have to sit there for sort of 2 minutes listening to it, and it would have been lovely to listen to, and it was going to be this lovely little song. And the characters would go, "What are you on about?" And then at the end, he would sort of the whole song, the whole song he did at the beginning, he'd do sort of again, but the English version, and it would basically be, at the beginning, he told them everything they needed to know to improve, and at the end, he goes, "Well, I told you all this at the beginning," and then he explains it in English, and they go, "Oh, well, how are we meant to know?" But it got cut for time and sort of melded into one song. So now he does.
Also, that might be quite a difficult ask for an audience.
Yes, I think it was. The joke would have worn thin, and I think it would not have worked. So I think it's ended up working quite well. But he does a couple of verses in French, then moves to English with a little bit of French scattered in, and it was just a nice concept to sort of. Partly it was sort of a joke that sort of everyone would be sat there going, "Oh, I don't know what he's saying, I don't know what he's saying." Or for French people, they're like, "These guys don't know what they're saying." We always get the best reactions from people who speak French from the audience with him. But
I can see that.
Yeah, it makes sense. But yeah, so he does this song, and it is very nice, and it's very nice that he is both, again, we have double casts for Escape Room, and both the people who play are fluent in French, which is great. But it's a lovely little song, and it was quite fun to work with both of them to get the lyrics for that, because I don't speak French.
No.
So admittedly, they could be saying anything on that stage, and I would have
Even
no
now.
idea. Even now, they could be.
The director, he is rubbish.
Yeah,
I want to be out of this show.
I would have no idea.
That would be quite the insult, wouldn't it?
Maybe that's why they're all laughing so much. No, they do a very good job, and it's quite fun to have this character from the audience. And it helps because we've added a little bit since we did a preview in July and June, like just some lines here and there, because people were struggling with the concept a bit of the audience being there.
Yeah.
Which maybe some people still do, but I think Pierre helps a bit with that, because
That is the name of the character.
Pierre, yes, Pierre, this French character sort of helps with that, because you're sat there going, what's going on? And there's this character who's come up on stage and is going, what's going on?
Yes.
And it sort of, I think, helps the audience a bit to go, every time they're sort of going, hold on, why are we sat here, or what's going on? And then sort of Pierre chimes in, and you go, oh, he agrees.
I suppose in some ways he's a lubricant for the story developing.
Yes.
And possibly also punctuation. And I use that, I think punctuation in anything is genuinely useful. It gives people moments to draw breath and take back. I'm going to sound terribly poncy here, but it allows for a bit of Brechtian dissonance, so you can withdraw from the story, take stock, climb back on again. No, I thought it was a really interesting concept, and not something I'd seen very much before.
Yeah.
I've certainly seen audience interaction and acknowledgement of the, breaking the fourth wall, but to have a physical embodiment, and to make that physical embodiment, as it happens, let's be honest, in a British context, a non-standard audience member. Yeah, no, I like that a great deal. I thought that was
thank you.
neat.
I very much enjoy. Yeah, and he's sort of interesting because he's the only one in Escape Room who doesn't necessarily learn anything in terms of
he doesn't have a journey.
He doesn't he doesn't really have a journey, but
it's not his show.
No, he is there as the audience, and he is not there to learn a lesson. He's almost sort of that wise old figure that you get in heroes' tales, where they sort of show up and they sort of know what they seem to know better than everyone there, but everyone still has to go through their story, and then at the end he goes, well, I knew that the whole time, I just needed you to work it out. And it's not quite what he does, but it's that sort of he's very set in what he's doing the whole time.
He's the most confident person in the room.
Yes.
Truly confident.
Yes,
not presenting as confident, which is a subtly different thing.
Yes, no. There's some others who are trying for approval or for to be liked or anything like that. Whilst he is there to be himself. He's there to.
There's no jeopardy for him.
No.
Which is the same thing as saying he had no journey either. So but he's not the poorer for that. Yeah.
No, he's there for. And I think maybe the only reason that you specifically maybe notice that there's no journey for him is because if you were in a show, watching a show with 100 characters, or watching a film with 100 characters, Pierre would be, he's one of the sort of side characters, he's one of the smaller characters who is in this quite a lot, but he's not the one going on a journey. But because there's only 7 people on stage, you notice that the other 6 go on a journey, but he doesn't. But I don't think he'd gain much from it, to be honest. I
don't think he's not the character on Change at all.
I think he does his job very well. And Felix, who's the person who plays him very well and plays
lovely
him.
name.
Yes, very French name, very lovely name. But he plays him very well, and it really helps that he brings an organic Frenchness.
He's authentic.
That's more the word I was looking for. An authentic Frenchness.
He grew his Frenchness.
which is really lovely, and I think it really helps the whole show.
Now, Tom, it's been lovely talking to you. No, but you're also very helpfully sitting in front of me wearing a sweatshirt that says Grown Up Playhouse, which of course is the name of your sort of theatrical environment. So tell us, how can people stay in touch with you and your colleagues and group so that future iterations, wherever they may be, in Edinburgh or otherwise, can be found and seen and enjoyed?
Yeah, so our whole company's called Grown Up Playhouse. Which is
Grown Up is one word in this case.
Yes, one word. Grown Up Playhouse, and it's what we take all the musicals up under. We have an Instagram called Grown Up Playhouse Productions, which we have all our shows update on. All of our shows also have their own Instagrams. So, I mean, if you come to any of the shows, you'll see how to follow them, and you're very welcome to. But generally, all of our company updates and stuff happen at Grown Up Playhouse Productions. We have a website, grownupplayhouse.co.uk. You can go to that. It tells you all about our shows. And yeah, that's generally the easiest way. And I'm sure some of these musicals that you've heard about today will be up again. So if you see those names, then you know it's hopefully us, unless someone's taken
unless you've licensed it for other people's production.
That would be lovely.
Yes.
That'd be lovely.
Well, Tom, it's been wonderful to talk to you about your enormous portfolio, if I may say.
Thank you.
And the shows are all very different, and actually that's rather delightful. But I was particularly taken by The Detective's Demise. Although you're a very statuesque prince in To Be a Prince.
Well, thank you.
And able to hold a stage when talking merely to a prop for most of it, which is
majority,
a skill that I think I do not have.
Thank you very much.
So no, it's been a great pleasure talking to you, and I hope that this won't be the last time we have an opportunity to discuss your work and performance.
Yes, I hope not.
Musical talk. There we are, Tom Rolfe there, talking to me last year about the 4 shows that you can still see at this year's Edinburgh Festival Fringe: The Detective's Demise, Millie's Musical Adventure, Charming the Musical, which last year was known as To Be a Prince, and Escape Room the Musical. And those shows are all on throughout the Edinburgh Fringe up to the 30th of August. Do go along to the EdFringe website in order to see more about them and to book tickets. That's edfringe.com. Or go along to the Grown Up Playhouse website. That's the name of the company behind these 4 shows. And you can find that at grownupplayhouse, all one word, .co.uk. And there you can find out more about Tom and indeed his collaborators on those many shows. It was a great pleasure talking to Tom. It's marvellous to be able to talk to someone who is still, well, lucid and sane after putting on 4 shows. And so my thanks go to him for giving me so much of his time, particularly given how busy a man he absolutely must be. Well, we're getting towards the end of this episode, but I think it would absolutely behove me, as they say, to give you a recommendation. In the week that this episode is broadcast, which is the 18th of August, there is a chance to see last year's musical talk pick of the Fringe, the 5-star show The Real Housewives of the Zombie Apocalypse. That show blew me away last year, and it's back for a week in Edinburgh this year. It is too good a show not to see, so if you are in Edinburgh or anywhere that can reach Edinburgh, do make a point of trying to see that show. It is funny, it is clever, it is everything I would want from a musical at the Edinburgh Festival Fringe and beyond. I do think that The Real Housewives of the Zombie Apocalypse is a show that should be picked up and taken everywhere around the United Kingdom. That is a show that deserves to be seen by lots of people. Do add it to your list of shows to see. The Real Housewives of the Zombie Apocalypse. And there endeth the recommendation. And indeed, there endeth this episode. Because I think we've covered everything we possibly can, so I'm going to stop. Do join us again next week, or whenever, for another episode of Musical Talk. And if you do get to the Edinburgh Festival Fringe this year, have a wonderful time. It's the greatest arts festival in the world. It's the biggest arts festival in the world. And so much of what's on offer involves musicals. It's like catnip to all of us, I imagine. It certainly is to me. However, for the time being, it's time for me to say goodbye. I'm Thos Ribbits. This is Musical Talk. Pip pip. This episode of Musical Talk, edited and presented by Thos Ribbits. Copyright Musical Talk 2026. To find out more about the world of Musical Talk and listen to past episodes, go along to our website www.musicaltalk.co.uk or subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your favourite podcasts. And follow us on all the usual social media networks.
I'm actually going to ask you to come in so we get the benefit of such benefit as there is from a banquet. A sentence I don't use nearly as much as I ought, I think. Well, I'd like to talk about the development. No, I'd like to talk about it, but it seems I can't. I'd like to talk about the development. Oh, for goodness sake! Right, let's try that again.